Hi, I'm Chike Coleman. That's Sanford Hess, and this is Real Reviews Home Edition, the show where we talk about movies, apparently from our homes. And this week we've started off a new monthly trend. This is the summer movies edition of Real Reviews Home Edition, and this week we have two movies that are firmly in that camp. The first is a film directed by John Turteltaub entitled The Meg. And I wanted to bring back an old classic that I loved that I found out briefly that Sanford had not seen. 500 Days of Summer, directed by Mark Webb. And I'm going to leave the plot of the Meg up to Sanford because I thought it was just too darn scientific to try and explain it, and then we'll give our thoughts. So, Sanford, take it away.
All right, well, let's tease this by last time you did tease this by saying we were going to do a shark movie. And then when you and I got off the air, we quickly realized that Jaws we'd both seen. And so the Meg, neither one of us had seen. So
Right.
let's talk about it. So the Meg opens with a deep sea underwater rescue led by Jason Statham and his team of underwater rescue divers. Well, the rescue that they're doing is deep, deep, deep down, the deepest there's ever been. And the place that they are seems to be attacked by some kind of outside force. So Jason Statham makes a last-minute decision during the rescue for them to jettison without taking everybody off that the rescue. They're leaving some people behind, which then proceeds to torment him, and he proceeds to, we learn, I mean, because it cuts from that to the sort of 5 years later. He's gone off and he's become a drunk in Thailand. And meanwhile, in a completely different process, there is a new research area underwater that is sort of off the coast of China or some Asian country.
Yes, China.
China, thank you. Making another appearance during the pandemic. The deep sea research facility is financed by some rich American who's played by Rainn Wilson from The Office. So the movie sort of starts with him arriving, and I thought that was actually a great scene, the way they teed that up. They're going to start this big underwater exploration because there is a layer down at the bottom of the ocean
that nobody's explored yet.
That nobody has explored. It's some kind of frozen crust of gas. And so they proceed to puncture through that with a ship and then find an incredible underwater world down there. But the ship that is exploring is also attacked by some sort of underwater creature. Well, from that point, we call back on Jason Statham, who's brought in to help with the rescue. And for the rest of the movie, it really sort of evolves pretty much in real time with that group of people. So Jason Statham leads a rescue, and they are able to bring most of the people back, but when they come back through that layer of permafrost or whatever it is, they created a tunnel and were followed by one or more.
Oh, why did you have to tell them that?
Well, they said that at the time. Even at that point in the movie, they said it was possible.
Oh,
so they're followed back by creatures from that area. And then the movie moves back into our world, and now they are at the mercy of an enormous shark, the Meg, the Megalodon. And from that point forward, the movie follows a relatively formulaic monster movie plot, touched on all the key notes of having the long periods of waiting, and then the false happy middle ending, which I love the happy middle ending. And then finally, the huge denouement where they fight this massive creature, and Jason Statham leads the process of the fight. And in the end, evolution wins, and they're able to save humanity from the giant megalodon.
And
now,
also,
of course, yeah, go ahead.
That they want to take a long vacation after.
Yeah. Now I'm glossing over a lot because actually, so I'll start the review like this. This movie is surprisingly good. It's a formulaic movie, but they really hit it well on the notes, and it's fun. I mean, it's got a great pacing to it, and obviously nothing is more terrifying than some prehistoric shark that is so huge it can essentially chew up boats. But at the same time, this movie had enough humor and scares in it to hit all the notes for me. Chike,
Okay, I'm gonna go really like professional critic on this one.
please.
So in what was it, 1974, 1977, we got Jaws. In 1996 or 94, somewhere in there, we got Deep Blue Sea. In the mid 2000s, we got Sharknado, which was the down step in quality for shark movies. But in 2018, we got The Meg. Now, here's what I want to say about The Meg. The Meg does everything that Jaws did in terms of suspense. You don't really feel like those sharks are living creatures, which is fine. But you do feel the intensity of those sharks being anywhere near you at any given freaking time, that they could destroy any of the submarine housing systems that these people are on at any given time. People make what I like to call Hail Mary sacrifice plays, sacrificing themselves for the good of others. And you do feel it to a degree. And other than Jason Statham, there is one more person who might just be more badass than Jason Statham. And that is Bing Bing. The actress name is Bing Bing, but I think her character's name is Cyrilyn, something
Sure.
close to that.
Yeah.
She is amazing in how she continues to fight for this team, fight for the research project that she's involved in. And watching Rainn Wilson get completely destroyed is great. It's brilliant. You can't not love it. Is this a great shark movie? I'm going to say maybe. It's better than it has any right to be. The acting is solid. They're not phoning it in at any point. I watched a brief interview with Jason Statham, and they asked him, "Well, why'd you want to do this movie?" He said, "I just wanted a fun, kick butt, not family adventure, but just a fun, kick butt, crazy movie where anything could happen. But I wanted it to stay plausible." And they obviously got the ideal director for that, because you got the director for the National Treasure movies, and also a movie that has no business being good, but it is a cult classic. The director of Cool Runnings. So somehow, much like in this director's history, he was able to turn something that was going to sound crazy and implausible into something amazing. But that is helped by the fact that there is actual written text on the Megalodon, not just in history books, but by specific authors who are referenced within the subtext of any Wikipedia page you use to look up this film. So
I want to go back to you hit the key word of plausible. I agree with you, because it feels like they actually took the time to say, okay, what kind of a scenario could lead to this megalodon coming up, from nowhere? And, sure, you have to put aside a lot of skepticism in terms of this, this thing of this, layer of frozen whatever that's keeping them down. But if you buy into the movie, you can say, well, maybe there could be something like that. And probably people would go ahead and punch through it. And
right, I almost can't blame it for being overly scientific.
yeah. Yeah. So, I agree with you. I mean, this movie actually took the extra steps to bring in quality actors, quality director. They had a quality script. It's cliched. Probably the worst thing you can say about it is that, and some of it I love, because it was like an homage to Jaws, the
Right.
scenes on the beach with the mom and the kid in the raft.
I was afraid for the dog.
And the dog. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Always the dog getting it in the shark movies.
I could not watch.
Yeah. Actually, so I only have 2 complaints about this movie, to put it out there.
Okay.
The first complaint was, although they tried to have some interaction between the people, I just didn't really care about too many of the characters. You mentioned Bing Bing's her character, but there was supposed to be some heat between her and Jason Statham, but I didn't feel it. My wife
not me either.
My wife had more chemistry with Jason Statham when she was watching the shower scene.
I mean, it's your wife. and it's a shower scene with Jason Statham. I don't know how there's not going to be chemistry there. That man could go gray and she would still probably be interested.
There you go.
Um,
Well, but the other complaint I had is that talk about a movie that deserves to be seen on a massive screen.
yeah.
And watching it at home, like this, it's good, but man, I wanted that shark to be in IMAX and
Yeah, the
50 feet
scale
tall.
needs to be IMAX. That's one of the few times where that's true.
Yeah, yeah. But
So overall, would you recommend it though?
yeah, I would. I mean, especially, going with the theme of the month, it's summertime and people might want a kind of light movie to, remind them maybe of why they don't want to go to the beach. But it's a great movie for this time of year if you want a fun summer movie.
Okay. I also recommend it based on the fact that not only is it teaching children about sharks they didn't know existed, but also, Jason Statham continues to show that he's a credible actor and that if a good story is there, he can really sell it to you. So it is a good, fun summer movie. Speaking of summer, the next movie that we want to talk about this week actually has not only summer in the title, but in the title character, and it takes place basically during summer. This is 500 Days of Summer, starring Zoe Deschanel and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I don't even really need to bother telling you who's in the rest of the cast list, because it honestly doesn't matter. The movie focuses mainly on that relationship between Summer and Tom. Tom meets Summer because he is a greeting card writer in an office, but he really wants to be an architect and he's been drawing all his life. And she kind of bonds with the fact that he has that dream of being an architect, and they also happen to like the same music, which is amazing and sweet. And one day, Summer feels an attraction to Tom and kisses him in an elevator. Throughout the weeks that they spend together, they grow closer and eventually kind of coalesce into a relationship, keyed off by one of my favorite random songs to ever be put in a movie, Mr. Blue Sky, when the relationship starts going well. Um, but of course, with every happy relationship, there is a decline. And this movie charts it well. Uh, I'll spoil it for you. Summer falls out of love with Tom. Tom doesn't take it very well at all, and it spends the other half of the movie, the part of the movie you probably won't like, moping harder than you've ever seen anybody mope before about the lost love of their life. And there are some revelations that come along later that make it more interesting as we watch Tom do the one thing he hasn't really done the entire movie, which is mature as a person. Um, and it's a really delightful story about being unromantic in love and the challenges being in any relationship presents, and how that love can grow and change or falter over time. It's a fantastic movie, directed fantastically by Mark Webb. Um, but having said that, I don't know if you all will fall in love with this one. I know that it's a cult following and it is a classic, but I'm wondering, you've been married for several decades.
Actually, there'll be 20 years this year.
Well, congratulations on that. How did this movie sit with you?
I want to get it back.
That's an interesting question. I related to this movie on a personal level in ways that not a lot of other romantic movies relate to me, because this one is guy centered, and it is, like you said, and like they tell you right off the bat in this movie, this is not a love story. This is a movie about the process of a relationship that lasts for 500 days, but I think it starts to go bad around day 200, and then there's 300 more days left. So
Yeah.
to me, I related to that. I mean, I think we've all had situations in our lives where maybe we were more in love with somebody than they were in love with us. And and when that happens, and it hurts. And I think that's what, to me, what this movie spoke to was the pain of being in, first of all, being head over heels for somebody who you're not sure if she really cares about you. And then second of all, continuing being head over heels when they are just not as into you. So for me, that part was really that resonated. How about you, Chike? Did you relate to this one personally?
When I saw it originally, nah, wasn't a thing. Didn't feel it at all. Now that I'm older, wiser, and have been in one of those where you feel it for that 300 days and it doesn't die, yeah, I can pick up what Tom, or in this case, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, is putting down with
Yeah.
how bad he feels, because I've been in that spot.
Yeah, and to me, I had never seen this movie before, and I got to say, this is what was funny when the movie started. I actually honestly thought this movie was about summertime when I
Oh,
suggested it. I was that clueless about what the movie was about. So when it
oh,
started, I was like, "Oh gosh, GK's gonna be mad."
I
But
mean, no, I'm not mad. Did you enjoy what you saw? Did you learn from it?
um, did I learn from it? For me, at this advanced part of my life, I was more about reliving the past. Yeah, I wouldn't say I learned from it as much as it sort of reminded me of a way that, like you said, I've been married 20 years, so it's a way that I haven't felt in a long, long time. But that rush of love that he felt, that's something that I think everybody has gone through or can relate to. And then that pain, that also I think we can relate to that, at least after a certain age.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for me it was feeling those feelings again. But forget about that part, because I mean this movie, as you referenced, is really about the stars.
Hmm.
And I mean, Zoe Deschanel is so amazing in this movie. I thought she really nails that personality of somebody, and they sort of allude to it again early in the movie, that good things happen to her. She just kind of has a magnetism to her,
Yeah.
and she embodied that. I mean, you believed that. You could associate with Tom. It wasn't the kind of, well, what does he see in her? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I get it.
They tried to give her a bit of the villain paintbrush by, coining her as indecisive, but I think, in my mind, from watching the film again, she wasn't indecisive at all.
No, no.
Really
If anything,
intellectually exactly who she wanted to be.
absolutely. She was, I mean, talk about, well, you could, I mean, maybe she had some growth at the end, you could argue, but I mean, from the
Yeah.
very beginning of the movie, she was like, look, this is who I am, this is how I live. And he just chose not to listen, which is where the problem occurs.
Yeah.
And and I respect that about her. I mean, her character, I respect her character, because her character was kind of consistent the entire time.
Yeah.
um
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean,
Whereas Tom fluttered between happy-go-lucky doughboy in love to complete and utter disaster. Um, I want to talk about something really specific with this movie that I don't really mention with other movies.
okay.
People often talk about what a perfect ending looks like. You look at the Matrix, Neo gets his power at the end, fights Agent Smith, becomes the literal Jesus Christ of that movie universe. Perfect ending, pretty much, because he doesn't really die. He basically resurrects himself and he wins. It's a perfect ending for a guy who had no direction to begin with. In this movie, they craft what I think is another perfect ending, but they make it beautifully circular in the sense that he wasn't really looking for Summer. He just spotted her, and through conversation, something sparked heavily. And to see that play out again after that 500 days, but with a completely different person. And I think you almost want to cringe at what the name of the character they introduce at the end is. You almost want to. Because at that point you can just call the movie of seasons.
Well, I think they
Um,
have a good name, first of all. But yeah, I hear you. Let's leave that as a surprise for people.
but I feel like they crafted the perfect ending there where he's now learned from his past mistakes, and you're introducing to him someone who is closer in his own personality and in his goal state. And how does that change the female he interacts with, or how does that change him as a person? Those are all interesting questions that the movie leaves you with. It leaves you asking more of the characters than when you started, and I think that's the mark of a wonderful writer and a brilliant director. And I think that's what's kind of missing in modern movies. They just want to give you everything all at once, all the time, no matter what the genre is. And for a genre like this, where you have the unromantic comedy,
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good genre for that
to
title for it.
have you going out with more knowledge than you came in, but also wondering what the next step is, that's a great filmmaker. Uh,
I'm gonna give some. I'm gonna also give some more credit to the ending because it's a really great ending to me because it unlocks the story. It's no longer just about his bummer relationship with Summer. Now it's about the sort of narrative that bad things might happen to you that you seem bad at the time, but actually in retrospect were the right thing for you. And I don't, I think that's a great lesson to take away from this film. He needed to go through the process with Summer in order to be a different person when the real opportunities come.
right.
So to me, that's it, because it actually puts the rest of the story in a little bit of a different light. You
Yeah.
go back to your list of perfect endings. A similar perfect ending to me, which I referenced when we did the show with Chuck, which feels like ages ago, but was just a few months ago,
Yeah.
was The Artist. So, the last scene of The Artist, after the entire movie is silent, in the very last scene, I'm giving something away here,
Yeah, you are.
we hear the lead speak and we realize that he actually had an accent. And that's why he could never make the transition to the talking movies. And all of a sudden, the whole movie looks like it's different. I mean, it's just the story is unlocked in a totally different way that you don't think about until that last scene.
Which is why so many people flock to that specific movie, because that magnificent, phenomenal turn in the artist is so well hidden, but also so well supported. And I think this movie hides it, but not as well. But the strength is within those two actors who are pulling off that believable push and pull of how relationships work. And I will say, in real life, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Zoe Deschanel are friends. They do play and sing together on occasion. There are YouTube videos out there of
Hmm.
this. So it's kind of like people got their happy ending, but in a completely different form.
Well, like she said, she just wanted to be friends. Yeah. So
Ah, that's clever.
as well, she did. So I guess to wrap up on this one, I mean, I would say this. I mean, I think this is a great movie. I think you know know what it is, know what you're getting into before you say sit down and watch it with a new girlfriend. Maybe
Oh yeah, don't do that. You're gonna ruin the entire relationship.
yeah, if you think this is a romantic comedy and not, as you said, Chike, so eloquently, a non-romantic comedy
Yeah,
or an unromantic comedy. But yeah, if you're looking again, well, it's okay. So if you're looking for summer entertainment and can bear with the same mistake I did, I think it's very appropriate for summertime.
indeed it is. And we'll have more summer movies for you next week. And to give a little bit of a hint at what that summer movie will be, I think it might cast a shadow. Until then, I'm Chike Coleman, and that's Sanford Hess, and we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.